You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis show, and my guest, Steve Opata, is Director of Finance Markets, Bank of Ghana. Clara Berry Kasati is a lawyer and teaches at GIMPA. Dr. Edith Dankwa, CEO, Business and Financial Times, and Dr. Idisa Sulemana is a lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. So let's take a couple of your messages and then we go to Menzgold. Menzgold says that what you're going through now is just going through a process of being refined, just how gold is refined, so that it will come out even shining a lot more and sparkling and being strong. Now, Kweku Mensah says, in Ghana, it is the bank versus the black market. For example, when Pastor Obutio wants to buy a Rolls Royce at $490,000 US dollars, he will go to the black market and tell the Malam, I want 500,000 US dollars at the rate of 6 cedis. In Germany, for example, there is nowhere you can exchange the dollar, and also no boutique will take raw dollar. Go to the bank simpliciter. Therefore, Ghana should make it a crime to change or buy from the black market. This is the only way to arrest the dollar. Arrest the dollar, rather. Okay, not the cedi. Eja Adam says that this government assumed power on the 7th of January 2017, and at the time the NDC administration was exiting, the cedi to the dollar was 4.27 to a dollar. 20 months later, the cedi to a dollar is around 4.75 to a dollar. The best performance of the cedi since 1992 is under the Akufo-Addo government, which has been able to contain and manage the cedi to its least depreciation, and these are verifiable facts. You just want to remind the NDC. Okay. Thanks for your message. Thanks for your message. Elsewhere too, there's a certain amount you can't change, you know. Even at the Forex, there's a certain amount they won't give you. And I see even how in Ghana, where you change the dollars, or you go to the exchange bureau, and nothing is demanded of you. You just transact the business anyhow. Nobody knows where you got your money from, and so on. You know. Meanwhile, other places where it works well, you at least need your passport, or you need some other identification document. You need certain particulars to display where you are getting what you are getting from before the money can be, you know, you can transact that business. Anyway, so let's go to Menzgold, and I start with Clara, whether we can find some gold there. we have seen the Securities and Exchange, Commission issue a very strongly worded statement. First, to the minerals, is it PMMC rather? Yeah, saying that Menzgold, or its brew marketing, Menzgold, it's licensee, and therefore they are breaching the license that was given them. And the license was buy gold from specific entities and then export. They said they are breaching this license. On account of that, because they are your licensee, take action, because you are not taking action. Then, I think 2-3 days after that statement, they issue a direct one. And then they say they have done their checks and they have come to the conclusion, after intersectoral meeting with the Bank of Ghana and the relevant bodies, they have come to the conclusion that Menzgold is doing what clearly breaches the law, and then gave a specific order that they should shut down, and shut down immediately. Not shut down everything they do, but shut down one aspect of their business. That is where they are found to have been in breach. Then we had the reply from Menzgold saying that we don't clearly understand what you're talking about. And in any case, you don't seem to have the power to exercise in the manner you are doing. Then You know, shortly after that statement, they issue another statement from their lawyers and say that, look, we'll comply partially. You say we should shut down. We're shutting down for a very short period, and we're shutting down this particular aspect. But we are shutting down because we have already stated to you what our reservations are. And then call for a meeting. The Securities and Exchange Commission replied and said, okay, that's fine. We can give you a meeting next week, Tuesday at 2 p.m. at our offices. But we ask you to furnish us with some information. You have not done that. You must bring that along for the meeting. Then they write back to say, look, in any case, you shut us down without that information. What it means is that that information is inconsequential to the decision you intended to take. So, look, we don't know what you're talking about. We are coming to the meeting, but we don't want to come to the meeting with any conditions attached. So, and then we woke up to news that Menzgold has hired, you know, a foreign legal firm, Baker and McKenzie, to also join, and they have also issued a statement suggesting that from it appears they are in full compliance, so they don't understand what is going on. So, yes, that's a long history, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, you were here the last time, and you gave some suggestions as to how they can go around this problem. It doesn't look like the solution is in sight.
Yes, unfortunately, it's quite sad that we are where we are, and that this is playing out in the public instead of in a professional way with all the parties involved. Now, I think we operate rule of law, we operate democratic governance. And in the framework that we have state institutions. The state institutions have a certain mandate, and they have to act in accordance with their mandate to protect the public. The state institutions have a responsibility to earn the trust of the public, for whose welfare they've been set up. And they can do that by being professional in the ways that they work. On the other hand, even though we have state institutions to cater for the public welfare, people have rights. Individuals and businesses have rights in the country, and those rights have to be protected. So the law always requires that the institutions of state act within the limits of the law rather than outside the limits of the law. So there is a limit or a framework within the institutions, within which the institutions can act. From the law, regulatory bodies have powers to come and search, to give directives, to reach conclusions. Now, I cannot say for a fact whether or not the business of Menzgold breaches the law. That is the allegation from the state entity.
There was a time when the commission had indicated that it didn't have, you know, regulatory control over it. But now it says it has done its work. It's met with the other sectors which are involved, sectorial meeting. And they have come to the conclusion that they are in breach, even though they still use the words and phrases, sounds like, appears like, as if they are not too sure what they want to say, that they are actually in charge of them.
Now, has SEC got the jurisdiction to investigate, to determine whether your activities fall within their jurisdiction or not? They do. But whether or not your activities actually fall within their jurisdiction is a different matter. They could be right, they could be wrong. If you contest them, you can, of course, engage one another, and then, of course, if you don't agree, you have to go to the court for the court to determine whether or not SEC is acting within its mandate or not. So for me, the best way to have handled this, I think, would have been for both parties, as we've said all along, to actually engage in a respectful and a professional manner. There shouldn't be acrimony. This doesn't need to be something like a banter between the two sides. At the end of the day, of course, if SEC is convinced, and then Menzgold is convinced that their activities fall within the regulations of SEC, there's only one way out. You apply for the necessary, the applicable industry licenses. If it does not, and SEC thinks that is a way that it should be regulated, of course, the law is there, which means that you have to engage and take out the necessary legal processes to now bring that area within regulation. from what is going on, it is quite difficult standing outside to determine who is right or wrong. We are more or less like spectators in this. But yes, we have to acknowledge that state institutions do have a mandate to act in the public interest. And state institutions have certain powers that they can exercise. So when state institutions are acting within those powers, they have the power to act. You have to know how to engage the state institutions. And I think it is possible for them to, at this point, I understand they are arranging some meetings.
Yes.
To be able, during those meetings, of course, with their legal counsel, to determine exactly whether or not the activities fall within the required, falls within the regulated industry. And if it falls within the regulated industry, of course, like there's only one way out. You must take out the licenses, or you will have to shut down. The institutions also have the powers to shut your business down if you haven't taken out the applicable licenses. With respect to the Minerals Commission, of course, they would also have to determine when you are giving a license by a regulator. The license always has conditions. There are always conditions on with respect to the permit, and you must comply with the conditions.
Yes, with them, they are saying, for example, that they gave them a license which was for 3 years and was to be renewed, and that was procured, I think, in 2014 or so. And they took that, and they were supposed to, on the strength of that license, also appoint an agent who will then be certified by the commission again to be the one to buy the gold. Now they claim that, well, that license expired, it was not renewed. They claim again that they did appoint a company, which is Brew Marketing, to do the buying of the gold, and yet it had not brought Brew Marketing under the commission for certification as the agent that will also do, and that is also another breach.
Yes, so what is the regulator doing about it? Because if you are a regulator and there is a breach, you have to take certain actions.
Right.
One, let's take the issue of renewal. If you have a license and your license has expired and you don't take out a renewal, you are in the same position as a person who doesn't have a license. Because at the particular point, once your license is not renewed, it means you don't have a permit to continue the business that you took the license out for. So you necessarily have to apply and obtain a renewal. In the case where they say bring an agent and the agent, you haven't brought an agent to be certified, it means that a condition of the license has not been complied with. If a condition of the license has not been complied with, the regulator must take the necessary action. And the law provides for the kind of action that the regulator can take. And the regulator cannot exceed the remits of the law that applies to how to address these issues. So I think the issue is not very complicated. The issue between Menzgold and the regulators is not very complicated. I think what is making it complicated is the manner in which they are engaging, on the matter, and probably the tone of the engagement. Otherwise, I think this is an issue that can be resolved. They are either in breach or they are not in breach. Of course, and like I said, if the license has expired, you don't have a license. Okay. You have to apply for the renewal. And
there are people whose concerns are that what is happening and playing out in the public now, you know, there's a run on the company, and that might cause it, you know, unnecessary stress. That these are financial, you know, dealing institutions, so to speak, and so when they get into these kind of problems, it becomes difficult, and that the people you are seeking to protect, you might even harm them the more, as in the persons who are dealing with those entities and all. If the regulation says you ought to have renewed, you need to renew, you ought to have had this certified, you haven't had that certified, that you can deal in, you know, the sale of minerals without the requisite license, how else can they resolve it when it appears that the entity has had a problem submitting to them?
That's why I said there's no problem. As a regulator, you have certain powers. It's up to you how you want to enforce your powers. But as a regulator, you have certain powers. Just be mindful that you are supposed to exercise those powers to protect the public. So you can't say there's no turf war.
Okay.
You have a regulator, and the regulator is either acting in accordance with their regulations and their powers, or they are not. And where there is a problem, the courts are there to be able to balance the scales and determine between the rights of the people. Okay. So in short, this really is for the regulator to determine whether or not They have that power to do that determination. But I am not saying that because they have now, the second issue of making the determination is right. It may not necessarily be right. It depends on, if you look at all the facts, what activities they are actually doing. If the activities they are doing do not fall within a regulated industry, you cannot force them. You can't force the issue. For example, you can't say that, well, this is not a regulated industry, but still I want to regulate it. If you want to regulate it, there's a legal process. So until you take that legal process, they are entitled to do their business if their business doesn't fall within your regulation. So I really hope they solve this quickly so that their customers would have the peace of mind as to what the issue really is. Because at this point, we all can't tell whether in fact their business falls within the regulation or it doesn't. You have this person saying it does, the other person saying it doesn't. But
we have been pointed to, for example, Section 216 is it of the Special Deposit Taking Act, which defines securities, or is it rather the SEC law, which defines securities to include commodity features, contracts, options, or other derivatives, and derivatives as defined under the Act. A derivative is a financial instrument whose characteristics and value are dependent on or derived from one or more underlying assets, such as a commodity, bond, equity, or currency. And the law clearly is that no person can engage in such dealings in securities in any manner, shape, or form without obtaining the relevant licenses from the Securities and Exchange Commission. And they say, this is what we find you doing. The Bank of Ghana's, in the Deposit Taking Act, they find that what you're doing may amount to deposit taking also, because they have done mystery shopping, and they found that at one point, no gold was exchanged. And yet, there was a fixed return that they were supposed to receive, even though on other occasions, there was actual gold that was given to whoever wanted to deal with the situation. And that again, they refer to Section 1091, which prohibits any person from operating as a broker-dealer in investments or investment advisor without first obtaining a license from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Yes,
yes.
Yes,
that is true, but that's why I've said that. So if the regulator has made this determination, the regulator has power.
Okay.
And one of the powers is to close to order the place to be closed down. So the regulator is not helpless when there is a breach.
Right.
The regulator can take the power, the decisions it has taken. If you challenge those decisions, then of course you know where to go to challenge those decisions.
Okay.
But basically,
let's hear from Edith. What's your reading of this situation?
I know Bank of Ghana knew about this.
Yes.
As far as 2017, Bank of Ghana and SEC, and I wonder why it took them so long.
It actually started earlier before, where the company had incorporated and was using the name Men's Bank with a K at the end. And according to our laws, you can't use bank if you are not properly, licensed to do and set up to do the business of a financial institution in taking deposits. So they took a cue and they went and changed from Men's Bank with a K to Men's Bank with a C. That also, the law suggests that if you have even if it sounds like a bank, there is also an offense you commit by doing so. You can't do any such thing. So it does appear after that they took a cue and changed again, and then eventually Menzgold.
Okay. So my question is, was it about the name or the nature of business?
It started with both name and nature.
Yes, but I'm sure I knew before 2017 that they were taking deposits. Doesn't mean Bank of Ghana didn't know, or
they'll
SEC
challenge
didn't
you
know.
to that. They'll say they don't do that. And there's a bold inscription in front of their offices that we don't take deposits.
But there's always a way to check, to investigate. So what brought us to this stage? There was some form of investigation.
Right.
And I think that it takes us too long to address issues like this. Now it's gotten into the public domain. Depositors' monies are there. How do we protect them? how do we also protect the business? And for me, my question is the business sustainable? Looking at what they are doing now, is it sustainable? Who has gone in there to find out whether they're just taking depositors' money, you know, and Piram is not repeating itself? So that is the angle I'm coming from.
What is your concern? The people who are involved, who put their gold or money there, say I've dealt with them since whenever and they've never defaulted. What is your problem? Why do you want to kill a business that, you know, puts food on my table?
We have to protect, or governments, or they have to be protected. Regulators have to protect them. Because if the company is closed now, what would happen to their funds? Does it mean that the funds have been used elsewhere and depositors' monies are rolling, and that is what is being used to pay interests? And so if it's closed down now, it will be difficult for them to pay depositors' money. What is happening in there?
So, so the regulator should not be speculating.
No, they should go in there and find out what is happening.
So they should be sure about what they're talking about before they take whatever step, isn't it?
Exactly. So they have to engage them in an innovative way, in a professional way.
Are they helping us, the public they want to protect, when they are not conclusive on whether or not you're dealing with a Ponzi scheme?
But the issue is, why aren't they conclusive? Why can't they go in there to find out? I don't know.
They have the legal...
Exactly. They have all the powers. Why aren't they going in there? Why has it taken them so long?
Well, they finally have gotten there. Yes, what do you say, Suleiman?
So, I mean, you see, the Menzgold trouble started with Bank of Ghana, right? Going back and forth for them, and now it's SEC. And it seems to me, from what I hear, that Menzgold doesn't accept deposits. They accept gold deposits, not money or cash deposits. So it's probably why Bank of Ghana cannot really...
The regulator has done mystery shopping.
Yes.
And has confirmed that on one occasion, there was no gold.
Yes.
On another occasion or two other occasions, there was gold anyway.
Yes.
But still, the nature of the business sounds you're dealing in securities and you have to come under their umbrella.
Okay, so for me, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the law. But from an economics perspective, we should start asking ourselves, what they are doing, is it illegal? Are they harming anybody? Who is Menzgold harming? These laws are intended to protect us, right? The public interest. Really, in general, governments come in, to fix situations. What are we fixing here? Is it just about the license? And if it is about the license, why do you ask them to shut down? It's supposed to be correctional, not destructive, right? Maybe you can, give them some time, say, look, you have to acquire the license within this amount of time, otherwise, have the sanctions and so on and so forth. But to just say, okay, you don't have a license for this, so shut down. You're actually hurting the public who have the investments there. I don't know if you get what I... Because,
No, but when you have a regulator talking to someone who says, I'm not too sure I have to submit to you, what do you want the regulator to do? You're saying in every regulation, they will say, if you default this number of days without renewing, you pay this penalty in money or so and so and so forth.
Yes.
And then they give you time to come and regularize.
Right.
You're saying that's what they should do.
They should do, yes.
But you don't know if they have given them that opportunity, but they are not taking.
They just ask them to shut down, from what we read, right? They gave them like a week and they wrote and they didn't respond, right? So for me, again, as I said, it's about whether Menzgold's activities are, one, illegal, two, whether they are hurting the public. If they're not hurting the public, then why bother? Why destroy a business that's thriving? I see when I drive around, when I go on N1, I see their huge office, at Jolu. They have employees, people are making money. I mean, what is it that they're doing that is so illegal that we need to shut them down? I don't know.
Can I answer that
still
question?
believe, sorry, okay.
Yes, Clara.
No, the issue is not whether they are harming somebody or not.
Yes.
For every country, you have a set of laws that regulate how you do business.
Yes.
So in our situation, we have the regulated industries, and then we have the unregulated industries. In the regulated industries, you have to pick up a permit. You have to pick up the required industry permit. Now, you cannot say that because my business is not harming anybody, I cannot pick up a permit. You must. because you have to be law abiding. If the law requires that you take out a permit, you have to take out up a permit. But if you are not, if the law, if you do not require to take up a permit, of course you don't. Now, with respect to the regulator, I think that to be fair to the institutions, most of the time, when they start these ones, they will give you an opportunity. And that's what they're supposed to do if you cooperate with them. Now, as a corporate lawyer, you have to know how to engage a regulator. So when it comes to that, both sides have responsibilities. You have to know how to engage the regulator, and then work with the regulator to bring yourself in compliance. That is if you agree with the regulator.
There's a regulator who has told you before that I don't think I have power over you. But it is now that he's been sure that he...
So now if he's sure he has power over you, now it is up to you to agree whether he has power over you or not. If you agree that he has power over you, you have to work with him.
All right.
If you don't work with him, you have to be mindful that the regulator has certain powers. And if you don't work with him, you can expect that the regulator will unleash those powers on you. So when it comes to that, it's a lot more also about you, your strategy on how you, but you can't say that, well, I'm not harming anybody. So like I said, I can't say whether or not they fall within the regulation. That's up to them to determine. But if you do, you have to work with the regulator to resolve the issue.
Okay. They've pointed to some of the laws that I'm sure the lawyers are looking at, because according to certain various subsections of the law, it's an offense for anyone who is not an authorized dealer to buy or even deal in minerals.
Yeah, because minerals is a regulated
person
industry.
who sells or buys minerals without a license granted under Section 97 or 104, or without a valid authority granted under this act or any other enactment, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 3,000 penalty units. That'll be how much? 12 cedis times 3,000 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment not more than 5 years. They talk about dealing as a broker. If you are dealing as a broker also, the law says you need to have the requisite license, and if you don't have, that one too has been made an offense under the law. A person that carries on a business as an operator specified in Section 109(1) without a license issued under this act is liable to pay to the commission an administrative penalty of 4,500 penalty units. A penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis, so a lot of money. Why are they not looking at making the money? But now we understand there's Iyoko angle and all of that. Maybe just some 30 seconds with you, Edith.
I think that the regulator needs to assure us, you know, as a people, that this is a company we can work with. We need that. That is why there's certification, there's license and whatever. If that doesn't happen and we go back and forth, engaging the regulator, engaging this company this way, and it's like they're not able to work together, it is quite worrying for me. So I think it's very important for the regulator to get in there to find out whether the business is sustainable. And if so, then the public must know. Those who want to go ahead and do business with them can go ahead and do business with them, rather than handling it in a manner. So I think it's all about the way it's managed. More than anything.
And for very good reason, I'm not bringing you on the spot, just some 30 seconds. Tell us, the Securities and Exchange Commission has again issued a general notice to the general public suggesting that there are a lot of financial institutions that are their dealings are suspicious. They look like pyramid schemes because of the rates they offer of interest and all of that, and that they are cautioning the public against all of these. Is it not too late in the day to be doing this when these entities are already all over?
Well, it's better now than ever. So, but what I want to say is that you know, markets thrive better on clarity, transparency, and appropriate regulation. So if you're a player in the market and you want to trade in certain activities, I think it's also your responsibility to make sure that you have all it takes to do that. In the case of Menzgold, for Bank of Ghana, I haven't been fully briefed on this. There's a department that works on this, but I know that we were concerned that some of the activities they were doing may amount to deposits taken, for which they had not been licensed to. So even we had consulted and spoken to Minerals Commission, which had granted them the license. And they even wrote to them and warned them that the license they had given them did not allow them to engage in deposit taking. So the bottom line is that markets will do better, there'll be better price discovery if people who are supposed to be under-regulated entities abide by that.
Okay, thank you very much. We ran out of time. Steve Opata is Director of Finance Markets, Bank of Ghana. Clara Berry Kasati is a lawyer and teaches the law at GIMPA. Dr. Edith Dankwai, CEO, Business and Financial Times. They put together the Ghana Economic Summit. And Dr. Idisa Sulemana is lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. Earlier, we spoke to Professor Odro, George K.T. Odro, Pro-Vice Chancellor, University of Ghana, and University of Cape Coast, and also Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, MP Bosomchi, and Deputy Minister for Education. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. My outfit, as always, is by Latida. Thank you very much for your company. Good afternoon.